Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christi Lukasiak. Thank you for joining me today. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I see you watching and I don't see you subscribing. Turn on your post notifications so that you know when I am posting, because what if my content is super riveting and you miss it? All right, so this video has been one that has been requested over and over and over and over and over again on my DMs, on my Instagram. If you don't know, I am an avid true crime enthusiast. And I can remember watching limited series about true crime cases back with my grandma in like the 80s. So I have been watching and reading true crime literally forever. And this case is a huge case that everyone talks about, that I've actually done a ton of my own reading and research on, and that is the JonBenét Ramsey case. We're gonna talk about my theory, my thoughts, my opinions on things, and I just wanna be totally clear, it's just my opinion and everything is alleged. Now, I'm assuming that most of you know who JonBenét Ramsey is. She was a little girl, she was murdered when she was 6 years old, and she was in the beauty pageant circuit, or on the beauty pageant circuit, which clearly there are parallels between that and dance. And so I don't recall the exact year she died or was murdered. I wanna say late 90s is when Chloe was little. She was very blonde, and we had a friend who always called her JonBenét. I'm like, please don't. It was the day after Christmas. She was found murdered and she was in her family's basement. And there's been lots of speculations. There's usually people who are one or two beliefs, like somebody in the family did it or there was an outside intruder. Like those are the two common beliefs. The thing about it really is there's not a lot of substantial evidence that supports that there was an outside intruder. That theory has been dispelled quite a few times, and actually there was a book written by one of the detectives on the case, and he wrote it after he retired, and he was giving information that never made it to the grand jury when they were trying to indict the Ramseys. So he felt that it was definitely something on the inside, and that's exactly how I feel. I definitely absolutely think that it happened with one of the family members. I definitely think a family member did it. I think that it was very much an accident. I think it was an accident. I think it got out of hand. Patsy was known for being ultra dramatic. Like, I understand that is very much the pot calling the kettle black, but she was known for being super dramatic, over the top. So what I think happened, I think that they were at their friend's house Christmas night. You know, they were at this party, you know, it was a Christmas party. JonBenét got a bike for Christmas. She was like excited, you know, she's a little girl, she's 6, like 6-year-olds are so excited about Christmas. And so when they went home that night, I think what happened is that Burke, the brother, who was 9 at the time, I think that he simply wanted to have like a snack. He was hungry. So he was eating pineapple. Now pineapple becomes like this major point and this major clue in the story. JonBenét and Burke kind of had this ongoing, and this has been proven, it's been documented by lots of friends, they had this ongoing like brother-sister fighting. I mean, siblings fight, right? But also been speculation that Burke was super jealous of JonBenét because he was an only child for a while, then JonBenét comes around, and then their mom spent obviously all this time on her with the pageants, and like she's a little girl, which it would be not a hard leap for a mom to like spend more time with a daughter if they have more things in common, you know? So there was a lot of speculation that Burke was jealous. And actually years before the murder, there was an incident where he hit JonBenét with a golf club. So what I think happened is I think that Burke was eating pineapple, and I think that JonBenét, being the pesky little sister that she is, ran up and grabbed a piece of pineapple, popped it in her mouth, and like turned to run away or whatever, something along those lines. And then I think what happened is that Burke picked up a Maglite flashlight that was on the table, and I think he hit JonBenét in the head with it. Now, do I think that he was like, I'm going to murder her? I don't. I think he hit her. I think that it was one of those cases where it's like, oh my God, I like, you know, how many times does a sister or brother like punch somebody and then they're like, oh God, like that was way too hard. I think it was a situation like that. But then I think like JonBenét went upstairs, and I think that at some point she slipped into a coma. And at this point, the parents are aware, and they think because she's in a coma that she's dead. She's breathing very shallow at this point. So I think the parents panicked. I think John and Patsy panicked because here, obviously, they're going through this massive trauma of their one child who was murdered. Not murdered, but like accidentally killed. And I think that what they're looking at is like, oh my God, our other child is going to pay this price. Like, he's gonna be punished and locked away. She's already gone. Let's protect this kid. And I think that all of this happened very quickly. I don't think they thought this out like too thoroughly. So then what I think that they were like, we need to stage something. And so Patsy says to John, like, take JonBenét downstairs, do whatever, like make it look like she was abducted. I will write the ransom note. So Patsy starts writing this ransom note. And a couple of things about the ransom note, which I will get to all the other clues in just a moment. Couple of things about the ransom note. It was proven that it was written on paper from her house. It was a weirdly long ransom note. They call it like the War and Peace of ransom notes because most ransom notes historically are very short and sweet. This one had a very dramatic edge to it. There was a lot of like references to movies. Again, remember I said Patsy had these very dramatic tendencies. That would play right along with the fact that she's trying to be like overly convincing. The ink was proven to come from a pen in her cup. So do I think an intruder sat in her house and like wrote a full-on blown, you know, 4-page ransom note? Absolutely not. Also, the handwriting was like, she could not be ruled out from the handwriting. She wrote the ransom note, took JonBenét downstairs, staged what was happening, and then they called 911. Now, Patsy on 911, it's a really difficult tape to listen to because it sounds off. And like anybody who's a mom, like she was like, I'm the mother. She's a little girl. John, like just the words she used were really weird.
What's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please.
Like, I'm a mom. I would be like, I'm her mom. You know, like if I thought my daughter was missing, I wouldn't be like, I'm the mom. And I wouldn't say she's this. I would be like, my daughter, or, you know, like Chloe or Clara. I don't know, just the way that you would talk. And then when she went to hang up the phone, you could hear that she was talking to another person in the background that proved, I don't know if they ever proved it. It sounded like Burke. Now Burke, the son, John and Patsy had both said that Burke was sleeping the whole time. And that's the other weird thing. Like if you really think that your child had been abducted and was being held for ransom, there is no way on this planet that I would leave my other kids sleeping at a different part of the house. I would like have them up under my shirt like a kangaroo with a baby in a pouch. Like there's just no way. So that's a little suspicious, right? So then getting to the other things like the garrote and the paint, like the paintbrush handle on the garrote was from their basement. And what I think happened is I think that John thought that he had to stage like this horrific scene. And so he put the garrote on her neck. Now, most people think that she died of strangulation. She, in fact, I believe was, I don't remember. I think she did die of strangulation, but she had this massive head wound. And this massive head wound made them think she was dead, but she actually ended up dying by strangulation. I think that's how it goes. Oh God, it's been a while since I've read these books. I'm so sorry. I definitely think that he like overplayed that a little bit because he's like, I have to make this dramatic. And then I think that once Patsy realized like what he did to JonBenét, I think she lost it. Like I think she lost it because it was like hard enough to go through and then to have it like that much worse, strangled. I just think that she couldn't live with any of that. So when they did the autopsy, I do believe that the head wound matched up perfectly with the size of that flashlight, but they never took that flashlight in for evidence. And I also know that when the detective wrote the book, there was a lot of weird, sketchy information about the Ramseys that was never admitted, or it was never admissible for the grand jury. So like the thought is Boulder police were kind of like, they were prominent members of the community. They didn't want to call them out on this. So they weren't pushing for this conviction. They didn't want them charged. That was the word. They didn't want them charged on this. They lawyered up right away. They actually left town the day of the murder. They like had their private jet called. They were ready to leave. I mean, crazy suspicious. They ended up staying, I think, and they gave one interview to the police. But what's really interesting that lots of people aren't really thinking back on because it was the 90s, the Ramseys really controlled the narrative. They were talking to the police. They would go to the press and give these big grand interviews and they wouldn't speak to the police. They would be like, oh, we're cooperating, but they really weren't. Every time the police tried to talk to them or question them, they had to go through all this red tape. So it's just like, as a parent, you're looking at it and you're like, no, like that's not how you would act if like your child was murdered or even abducted. It just smells weird to me all the way around. I know I am forgetting something. Anything else I want to talk about? I definitely think, oh, like Patsy answered the door in the clothes that she was wearing the night before at like 5 a.m. That's weird, you know, and like had the night progressed from the snack with the pineapple all the way through the police coming in the morning, she wouldn't have thought to go put on her pajamas. She would have just been like, yep, I'm up, I'm dressed for the day, but she's wearing the same clothes as last night. I think she just overlooked that fact that she didn't change. I think that because it was Christmas time, like the press ran with it. It was a little girl, they were very wealthy, it was sensationalized. And oh, everybody talks about the stun gun marks. Well, the stun gun marks, first of all, if you're stunned, it's not gonna like make you incapacitated. Like, it's not gonna knock you out. A stun gun actually like brings up your adrenaline and you're like, woo. So like for them to say that she was stun gunned and then she was like out cold, it's not like you're getting general anesthesia and you're like, ugh. And what they found was Burke had an electric train, and the train tracks when they were electrified, if they touched the skin, like the exact same mark that was on her matched up with the train track. So again, I think it was like a brother sister were fighting kind of thing. Anything else? I mean, yes, I know I talked a mile a minute. I know I'm gonna have a million people in my comments disagreeing with me, but that's fine. We can have a healthy conversation about it for sure. That's just my take on it. I do know that Burke keeps a very private life now. Oh, the one thing I did want to say is if you ever want to see something like just very, I don't want to say unnerving because he's a kid, but something that's just odd, is if you watch his police interrogations, like they feel a little strange. The whole family just feels strange to me, like strange in their reaction, not themselves, but strange in their reaction. Patsy did pass away from ovarian cancer, which I can only imagine the anguish that this woman went through, because just, I can't even imagine. She passed away from ovarian cancer. I do believe John is still alive. And weird fun fact, John Ramsey actually at one point dated Natalie Holloway's mom. So if you don't know the Natalie Holloway story, that's a crazy one. Maybe someday I'll talk about that one. These two parents had some of the most tragic headlining like child murder stories of my memory, and they like go out on a date. What are they talking about? Like, it's crazy. But let me know if you liked this video, if you liked me just like rambling on about my thoughts, my feelings, my theories, and I'd love to hear your theories in the comment. Like, come at me, let's talk about it. I know there's a lot of people out there who disagree with me, and let me know what case you'd like me to talk about next if I do talk more murder. Go check out that video where I am doing the tour through the LA murder spots. That's a fun one, and I will see you back here next week. Bye.